Hey guys, this is Slave to the Games. This is the next part to the full in-depth explanation series for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. This time we're going to be going over the TOREADOR as our clan video. Thank you guys for stopping by and I hope you enjoy. Once again, just a quick shout out to the people in the White Wolf fandom Wikipedia for creating all this information and having a, well, very thorough information network that I really have been enjoying using and learning about. The TOREADOR are a clan of vampires known for being some of the most beautiful, sensual, seductive, emotional, and glamorous of the kindred. They are responsible for the legends of vampires who seduce and entice their prey with beauty, love, and sensuality. Famous and infamous as a clan of artists and innovators, they are one of the bastions of the Camarilla, as their very survival depends on the facades of civility and grace on which the sect prides itself. Due to their inherent clan weakness, although lovely and seductive, the members of this clan are as much prisoners of their artistic vision and sensitivity as they are its beneficiaries. They are often overcome by the beauty they see around them and can become immobilized with fascination. Such things as paintings, neon signs, or even sunrises can captivate them. This trait explains why TOREADOR so often fall in love with mortals and other vampires. This trait, however, also bans them from ever reaching perfection in their chosen form of art and makes them callous and disregardful once the experience becomes banal, resulting in trials of heartbroken mortals and discarded projects behind every TOREADOR. It is said that the clan's founder, Erikel, was a mortal painter or sculptress in the First City. Famed throughout the lands for her work, after her embrace, she painted a mural on which the past, present, and future of kindred society was depicted. When Cain saw a terrible future for his race, he cursed her with the affliction that affects TOREADOR today. The art that she loved most dearly would now be her obsession and distraction above all things. The TOREADOR had a strong presence in the early Minoic cultures of Greece. The TOREADOR attribute many of the classic tales as distorted versions of actual interference of mortals and Cainites, such as the tale of the Minotaur or the tale of the Tantalus and Pelops. Their squabbling, however, weakened the first civilization of Mechane, as Chowder drew their sustenance from the population, who in turn became too weak to defend themselves from foreign invaders. After the fall of Mechane to the Dorians, the TOREADOR wandered across the Mediterranean, often seeking shelter by the Roman Ventru or the Carthaginian Bruja. At first, the TOREADOR supported both sides in their struggle, but when it became clear that Carthage would lose, many TOREADOR abandoned the city and joined the Roman forces, bringing with them tales of debauchery and infernalism that propelled the Ventru to completely raze the city to the ground. The TOREADOR began to insinuate themselves into the city, often competing with the Ventru and Malkavians. When Rome's glory began to fade, one of them, the TOREADOR Mikhail, deserted Rome to follow Constantine into Nova Roma, to construct the dream that had failed in Rome, much to the shock of many TOREADOR elders. Constantinople remained a beacon of Cainite power and glory until the city was sacked by the Fourth Crusade in 1204, and original Cainite population either had fled or was destroyed. In the Middle Ages, the TOREADOR were a member of the High Clans, and their numbers were made up of the same types that are common in the modern knights: minstrels, painters, poets, and actors. Many TOREADOR insinuated themselves into the structure of the Catholic Church, primarily because the Church was the only supporter of art in these dark times. The courts of love, which encompassed much of France, were firmly under their control, and the TOREADOR. Following the formation of the Camarilla thanks to the efforts of the TOREADOR Rafael del Corazon, some of the members left the clan proper upon the formation of the Sabbat, most famously Ariana of Estragon. TOREADOR and Teacherview use the dark reflection of their Camarilla cousins. While they are beautiful social butterflies, their weakness has twisted so that all in Teacherview derive joy from the emotional, physical, and mental suffering of others. The Renaissance is well remembered as a golden age of the clan among the elders. As one of the most powerful clans within Europe, the TOREADOR prospered in France as Europe's culture nexus, enjoying the works of various new artists as Michelangelo and Da Vinci, as well as the works of Shakespeare and the invention of the mirror. Many TOREADOR began to turn away from spiritually motivated preservationism to a self-serving hedonism that plagues them today. The TOREADOR reveled in the Victorian age. The Industrial Revolution led to a phenomenon that only the rich had been previously afforded: leisure time. A heyday of the theater, music, and art began in culture nexuses like New York, London, and Paris, and spread throughout the globe. While the influence of the church in people's lives, and consequently the influence TOREADOR held over the church, waned, those kindred that latched themselves onto businessmen prospered. Possibly the one thing most TOREADOR love, with the exception of beauty, is money, and it was now accessible from places other than the landed gentry of the time. While the clan has had peaks and pros, this was the time that cemented them as a true power in the Camarilla. The TOREADOR played their games as they always have in the final nights, albeit at a slightly more frantic pace due to the upheaval of the various skirmishes the Camarilla have fought. The recent innovations of cinema, television, and the internet means that new forms of art and expression are being discovered almost daily, meaning the TOREADOR have become even more varied. However, the TOREADOR are still a noble and aristocratic clan, and many perceive the embrace of graffiti artists, Wall Street wizards, and CGI technicians as a pollution of the vaunted ideals that the clan used to stand for. Many nights are filled with one TOREADOR bickering with another over what can be considered true art, and each TOREADOR's opinion is as varied as the definition of art itself. The TOREADOR have no formal overarching hierarchy. Ad hoc gatherings called affairs of the clan are called, with no mandatory attendance, though most turn out for them. These can range from parties, dinners, art showing, or actual meetings. The TOREADOR of a city organize themselves into guilds. While this has something of an artistic ring to it, most TOREADOR in the city are members, whether they are poseurs or artistes. The head of the guild is typically the oldest and most influential TOREADOR within the city, with other members forming a complicated, stratified social system, the rules of which boggle many an outsider. The clan itself has two divisions. The artistes consist of the sculptors, the painters, the musicians, and the writers. They consider themselves to be the real TOREADOR, as inheritors of the clan's original values and goals. The poseurs make up the other faction. They can include the failed artists, or those that happen to be embraced while their sire was riding a particular fad, as well as the professional critics and those who consider their bodies to be their life's masterpiece. It should be noticed that either group has a nickname for themselves. They tend to be only flung at the opposing faction as a derisive epithet. Now onto the clan variants, the first of which is the Nephilim. The Nephilim were part bloodline and part cult that revered the fallen Methuselah Michael as an embodiment of the archangel of the same name. Since his death, which they refer to as his ascension, they wait for someone who can inherit his divinity. The line was founded by two surviving children of Michael, Paul Bathalos and Parcoranus. The pair devised a rite that could purify other TOREADOR for their eventual defecation, christening them children of Michael in spirit, if not literally. These Nephilim were infused with a longing for the departed Methuselah that even superseded their clan curse and resulted in the development of the path of the archangel. Since none of them survived the Dark Ages, it can be assumed that they went extinct. The next one is the Ra'in al-Fen. The Islamic TOREADORs are the Ra'in al-Fen, commonly nicknamed as scribes, as the majority favor calligraphers, writers, and architects. They are centered in Egypt and Persia, in the best parts of the city, decorating their havens with calligraphy, usually verses from the Quran. For this reason, the scribes encouraged education in the Holy Scriptures to allow mortals to better understand the calligraphic arts before them. The Bait faces a schism between its elders and neonates. While the elders seek to preserve every form of art, including idols of lost religions and representatives arts, the younger scribes see this as an affront against Allah, and are usually ready to use violence to remove them. The third is the TOREADOR and Teacherbu. The TOREADOR and Teacherbu are the dark mirror image of their Camarilla brethren. Although they are no less beautiful than their cousins, their minds are twisted and warped, and the Teacherbu often lose themselves watching others suffer, much like the Camarilla siblings lose themselves watching a beautiful painting. Whether the variance of the Teacherbu weakness is just a variance due to the circumstance or an actual bloodline variance is disputed. Within the TOREADOR and Teacherbu, it is an actual variant bloodline though. TOREADOR, who as mortals were members of the Sabbath's Xantosa Revenant family, while Xantosa are born with the vicissitude ability, and when embraced as a TOREADOR, they retain this as a bloodline discipline instead of acquiring the celerity of mainline TOREADOR. And they retain their familial weakness of hedonistic addiction instead of acquiring the TOREADOR and Teacherbu weakness of compulsion towards cruelty. The reputation of TOREADOR and Teacherbu as being perverts is due in part to Xantosa TOREADOR. The last variant we will be going over is the Vulgiri, a secret lineage of TOREADOR and Teacherbu. The darkly beautiful Vulgiri were experts in the blackest pursuits of art, employing vicissitude to produce twisted and horrific works of repugnant beauty. As part of a secret agreement, the Vulgiri have recently been allowed to reintegrate into the Camarilla TOREADOR. Having defected from the Sabbath, the jaded main body of the TOREADOR clan got centuries worth of darker arts to enjoy, as well as access to a discipline uncommon among the Camarilla, while the Vulgiri received false names and lineages to conceal their true origins from the other Camarilla clans. It is said that while the Ventru are the mind of the Camarilla, the TOREADOR are its soul. It was one of their number, Raphael de Corazon, who was instrumental in its formation. The TOREADOR are the greatest supporters of many of the Camarilla's traditions, most notably that of Elysium. museum. This is where the TOREADOR are in their element, showcasing their latest pieces and practicing their highly effective and sometimes deadly form of social maneuvering. From the outside, most other clans think of one face of the TOREADOR, but see another. When speaking them to another, most envision TOREADOR as the artistes, billowy shirted, frock-coated fops who crow about the beauty of the ages and lamenting their lost humanity. In reality, outsiders are less likely to meet such characters, given as they are to sequestering themselves away to work on their latest masterpiece. Far more often encountered are those TOREADOR whose unlives have been dedicated to the kindred social scene. TOREADOR are often a large contingent of the city's harpies, and have spent years with their bitchy and conniving clanmates. They are more than capable of ruining someone's reputation with a pithy comeback or a damning piece of gossip whispered in just the right ear. The TOREADOR portray themselves as the vampires closest to the living, breathing pulse of the humans around them, though this honor might be shared with the Bruja. They claim that this is what keeps them so vital and modern. Indeed, clan members are often the first ones to be aware of what mortals are wearing, eating, buying, and sleeping with. While McCaving Elder might be found in his 1800s finery, the TOREADOR is much more likely to be wearing something from this year's Paris catwalks. Many TOREADOR are fond of having mortal families, or assuming mortal identities, in order to capture the breath of life that is denied to them. The constant pressure that the proximity to mortals can elicit, however, can cause a TOREADOR to break down, losing all of their creativity and motivation in the process, resulting in a debauched individual that desperately searches for the next kick to experience the feeling of being mortal again, eventually turning to mortal vices like drugs in order to feel just this one aspect. The older a TOREADOR gets and the more mortal associates he watches dies, the more likely a burnout is to occur. Other vampires have to deal with it too, but no clan suffers so uniformly under this aspect of their existence than the TOREADOR. Art is the cornerstone of the clan, defining its clan curse and shaping the preferences of every TOREADOR. The TOREADOR are not artists by choice as much by nature, as each TOREADOR desperately searches for something that anchors their passion and preserves it from withering from the ages. The desire to preserve art and artists is, more often than not, the impetus for an embrace. As such, many TOREADOR struggle when they discover that the talent that originally brought them into the clan is falling out of favor, or that their creativity has suffered under the weight of ages. The relativity of art is one of the major conflict points with the clan, especially between elders and neonates, who refuse to think of modern developments like dubstep or dadaism as an art form, while neonates are often frustrated over the conformity of art that the elders seem to expose. Common accepted forms of art can be everything from within the clan, as long as it is prestigious. Cooking, for example, is not a widely spread form of art among the clan, mainly due to the vampiric inability to actually consume the food. Painting and sculpting are the most iconic, but the TOREADOR have also a fair share of poets, artisans, dancers, actors, musicians, and even warriors and martial artists. Revenge, also called justice by neonates with morals, and intrigue are also considered as art forms, and many elder TOREADOR commit themselves fully to this, having found ways to utterly crush their rivals and driving them to suicide without even lifting a hand. As stated before, there are two rough molds that clan members fall into. Artists make up a large proportion of the clan, which in the modern nights can include computer graphics artists, avant-garde performance artists, and sportsmen alongside the singers, dancers, and writers. The other portion consists of businessmen, critics, and those who are simply beautiful. While the main detractors of the clan, often the Nosferatu and the Bruja, complain that TOREADOR coddle their childer, the truth is much more brutal. TOREADOR sires are notoriously capricious, and while the subject of their embrace can be the most cutting edge, the most innovative, and the most beautiful, the most now, they can easily be terribly passé and embarrassing the following week. The sire then inevitably dumps the new child as soon as is feasible, leaving the young vampire confused and struggling to make their own way. Such is the nature of the TOREADOR. And that's where I'm going to leave it, guys. This is the end of this in-depth explanation for this specific TOREADOR clan. I hope you enjoyed it and at least learned something new. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you already haven't, and optionally maybe think about joining the Discord to talk to me on off-stream hours, off-recording hours, or just if you want to talk about any upcoming games or anything in general, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can, as well as maybe possibly, well, joining my Patreon and becoming a Patreon member on a variety of tiers, and help support me and what I do. Thank you guys for stopping by. I'll catch you guys in my next release.